Her sport, her life.
This is Her Why.
Here's your host, Lauren McLean.
Welcome to Her Why, where we celebrate the women who make BYU sports great. Today's guest is Amanda Barker, a powerhouse in every sense of the word. She's a former BYU women's basketball player, CEO of Halftee, head coach of the Provo High School girls basketball team, co-host of Her Layered Life podcast, and a mom of 8. Thank you so much for being here, Amanda. That's amazing.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the nice introduction. That was sweet.
So many things. You've got to be one of the busiest women ever between everything you're doing and having 8 kids on top of that. What does a day in the life look like for you?
You know, it's funny. I was just thinking the other day, the day in the life has really changed over the last, even 10 years. Because 10 years ago, my baby was a baby. And I was doing all of these things even 10 years ago. Well, about 8 years ago, I started this. I'm in my 9th year at Provo. So, 9 years ago, my baby was still a baby and my kids were still kids. Mm-hmm. And so that day in the life looks significantly different than it does today because I've got 5 kids now at home and they're bigger. My baby's 11. But it's still, it's great. Basketball season just started 2 weeks or about, almost 2 weeks ago. And it's early rising and go until it's all done, and then you go to bed and you do it all over again.
Man. And how much do you do? So you're the head coach of the women's basketball team, and then you have your company. Mm-hmm. How much do you do with your company on a daily basis?
So I really try. The tricky part is I'll work all morning, right, until right up to basketball practice. And then generally basketball practice is a little bit crazy because we're in a block schedule. So every other day looks different, right? Early practice starts at 1, late practice starts at 3:30. So it just depends. So if it's early, then I come back home and I work for a few more hours and I get done. But I have I've been in business for 17 years. So I have an incredible team. We know, they know what's going on. This time of year is a little trickier because it's all your Black Fridays,
right,
all your Cyber Mondays, your Christmas. So you're really pushing in that Q4 to get numbers and meet numbers. But I've got a great team, and we've been talking about Christmas since August. So that's the world of marketing and strategizing. It's actually, I always think, I'm like, is Christmas not over yet? We've been planning for it for 3 months. So I've got a great team, and they pick up the slack, and I'm available whenever they need it. But that's typically what it looks like.
I don't know how you have the energy to do everything. I'm give you all the caffeine in the world. I don't know what it takes. But
I do love a good caffeinated beverage.
And you need it. Let's go a ways back to your early life. You grew up in Wyoming. What part of Wyoming did you grow up in?
Well, I was born in Baggs, Wyoming, which is a tiny little town. And then we moved to Sheridan, where I spent from, about 8 years there, from 4 to 12, 7th grade, into 7th grade. Then we moved to Laramie, where the University of Wyoming is. And that is where I did junior high and graduated from high school. And that is what I call Laramie home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lavelle Edwards he doesn't love Laramie.
Well, it's not I didn't know till I knew.
But then you knew.
Then I became a BYU Cougar, and we went and played at Wyoming, and I was chanted traitor the whole game.
Wow,
yes,
really?
Yes, and every one of them were all my high school friends, every one of them. Well, not everyone, but definitely the conspirers of the idea were all my old high school buddies. So, yeah, the whole game, anytime I had the ball in my hand, I was traitor.
Wow. Tell me you beat him, though.
Oh, killed him. In fact, best game of my life. In fact, the coach came up to my dad. My dad brings this up all the time. The coach, Chad Levins, I think his name was. He came up to my dad after and said, "Wow, we really messed up when we didn't recruit her." And my dad goes, "Yeah, you did.
You absolutely did.
Yeah, you did.
But you made the right decision. I will say that.
Yes, I did.
What was life like in your home growing up in Laramie, Wyoming?
Oh, I just feel like I had the best life ever. Laramie's an incredible town because it's small town, but then it has the university. Mm-hmm. So you get a ton of opportunities through the university, and yet you still get this very small town upbringing. The high school, without the university, back when I was there, it's not that the population significantly changed, but the population was like 15,000 people. And so you had 15,000 people, then the student body brought in 15,000 people. That's 30,000 people. That's still a small sized city or community. But the high school was smaller. We were the top division, top classification in high school, but you had to do everything. And I was really raised on everything. My mom is a music teacher, loves music, loves sports too. And my dad loves sports, of course. But we were really blessed to be able to have both worlds. So I grew up in a very musical family, grew up in a ton of athletics and very active and that sort of thing. And then being in a small town, you are in everything. You do student council. I was in choir. I'm on all, you play all three sports. There was no just focus on one sport.
Yeah.
You could not afford to, not in a school that size. Everyone had to participate. And it really did bless me with just such a huge wealth of experiences and talents. It really helped me tap into a lot of talents that I may or may not have ever known that I had. But because my mom was so musical and my dad loved athletics, it was just this beautiful, perfect, and I'm so grateful for that opportunity to have all of it, because it really did. I use it all now.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Do you feel like that ties into how you were able to do it all basically now? Because you kind of have always done that.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I am one that I am way more productive when I have 30 irons in the fire. I become a complete slug if I am like, it's funny because my husband does a lot of traveling, and when he's out of town, I am on it, right? Like deek, 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 because I don't have anybody else to worry about it. He comes home and it's like, I start forgetting. The weirdest, most randomest thing is because I oh, Tyler's home. I can chill out. But you can't because you got all these things to remember. But yeah, I really do I love being busy. I always have loved being busy. My mom is very much wired the same way. And I thrive in having a lot on my plate.
That is really funny you mentioned that about your husband, because as I was thinking about it, I'm like, I do the same thing. When he's home, I'm like, it's all right. So many things slip through the cracks.
Right. It's funny.
When he's gone, I got everything just aligned. That's really weird.
It's weird, but
It is what it is. You ended up going to College of Southern Idaho after high school. What led you there?
Just basketball, honestly. I played high school basketball. I didn't ever know that I was going to be a collegiate basketball player. In fact, it really wasn't. Back then, it wasn't something you really ever talked about a ton, right? My teammate, Megan, she always had it in her back pocket. She always wanted to go on. But I was tiny. I was 5'3". Was I good? Yeah, I was good. But I just didn't think that was in my cards. And as I got old, junior, senior year, I started really thinking, okay, what am I going to do? What do I want to do? And I love basketball. When I walk into a gym, I feel the same way I feel when I walk into my home. It just really is like a passion of mine. And there's nothing in particular that I love about it other than I just sincerely love all of it. And I would do it if I was terrible at it, I think, like that's how much I love it. So what I realized is that, I started getting letters for colleges, and I started getting letters for volleyball too. That's actually, we played all different sports. And the letters started coming in, and I was like, oh, I could actually go and play college basketball. So maybe that's something. And my dad and I started talking about. We started, back then you sent VHS.
Mailing them in.
You're mailing in these VHS cassette players, to get video on you. And anyway, so we started that process probably end of my junior year. And I had several junior colleges looking at me. I went on a recruiting trip to Boise State. That didn't pan out. And then I went on both. I went to Casper College recruiting trip, and I went to College of Southern Idaho recruiting trip. And I literally drove into the valley. I don't know if you've been to Twin Falls, but you cross over that huge bridge and the big old canyon. And we drove into the valley, and the Spirit just said, this is where you're supposed to be. And so I signed the letter of content, what's it called?
Intent.
Thank you. Intent, not content. Signed the letter of intent.
But you were content to sign
I was
the letter
content and happy to sign that letter. But I signed that letter that weekend and knew that's where I was supposed to be. And it was a very, very pivotal time in my life when I headed out to College of Southern Idaho. 9 hours, 9 hours away from home. Never been away from home. And I loved it.
And it was pivotal probably for a lot of ways for you, because then it opened the doors to be able to play for BYU, right? So what's that story? How did that happen?
That's a great story. I had a really great career at College of Southern Idaho, we talked a little bit before. If you want to play at a JC, College of Southern Idaho is the place to go. They've got, I mean, they traveled 2 giant charter buses everywhere we went, packed with, all the senior citizens of Twin Falls, Idaho. And they were so invested in not just men's. It was really, and I grew up in Wyoming where women's and men's basketball, they're the same. If you were going to the men's game, you were going to the girls' games. So there was a lot of respect, and that was kind of my expectation. And going to CSI, it didn't really change. And so that whole experience was so stinking fun. And I remember my sophomore year, I was starting to get letters again, trying to figure out, was I going to go on a mission? Should I just go home? Should I actually go, University of Wyoming still didn't want me. We'd reached out to them to see if that was some, if they were, I was too small for them. And so I thought, well, maybe I go home and maybe I walk on. And I just knew I didn't want to also deal with all of the political things that were going on at that time with women's athletics. And so I thought, well, if there's one place that I would go that would align with my standards and the things that I really want from academically and athletically, I'd go to BYU. And they started to recruit me. They started coming to games, and they brought me in on a recruiting trip, and they offered me. Well, and I can't remember timelines, but fairly after that, the whole coaching staff was let go. And with those rules, you don't have to, the recruits that you have signed, you don't have to honor, the new coach doesn't have to honor any of those recruits. So there was a moment where I was like, well, I mean, it was fun while it lasted, but, So then they hired Trent Shippen, who Trent Shippen was the head basketball coach at Rick College. So I had been competing against Trent Shippen and his basketball teams for the last 2 years.
So he was very familiar with you.
Yes, he knew me very, very, very well. And he chose to keep me on his team. And it ended up, and again, come to BYU, there was a significant difference in support. It was a very different. I mean, we were so happy when we got 500 people to our games, but the program itself had struggled for a few years. So we had some work to do, and we had some trust to build back, and give people a reason to want to come watch. And Trent came in, and we really did the team. We all came together and we worked together, and we ended up going my senior year. We ended up going to the NIT. Which was a significant shift in success in 2 years. And I really attribute that to Trent and Coach Lindsay and Coach Knighting and the time and really the culture shift that they really brought in, because it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work.
You had to change a lot of people's minds. So once you were at BYU, when did it feel like, because you mentioned you come from CSI where you have so much support. BYU, you're fighting to get 500 fans. But at what point did it feel like home and like the right place for you?
When I mean, if every person in their life could walk in through the tunnels and into the Marriott Center, that was my moment where I was like, this is exactly, and that's how the Lord works with me. He doesn't really mess around. He just says, this is where you need to be. And that's really how it was. And so when I can still remember my very first game, and I was coming through the tunnel, and I walked in. I was in my uniform, ready to play our first home game, right? And I walked in, and here's this massive this massive arena, and I was like, "Holy moly, you're here! You are here!" And what a blessing it is to be able to play.
How would you describe yourself as a college athlete? When you look back, you mentioned you're 5'3", so you were obviously a guard, probably a point guard.
Point guard.
How would you describe what you were like as an athlete?
My team would try to get Jill. I'll never forget this. Like, Jill Adams was our post, 6'3", from up in Ogden area. It wasn't Ogden. It was probably Ogdenish. Anyways, like, it was, the entire team was just hoping, like they were trying to build Jill up to just beat me in the 2-mile race in preseason, right? I knew how to work hard, and I ate, drank, slept. When I get onto something, very rarely have I found anyone that can outwork me. I love it. And so I'm up early. I would wake up almost every morning, and I would go shoot almost every morning on my own. That's actually where my husband and I were first introduced. I'd go shoot, and then I'd go hit the weight room, and I'd get on the treadmill. I'd run, hit the weights. Then I'd be early to practice, at least an hour, if not earlier to practice. And then there's a high chance I would stay in the gym until they kicked me out. I just loved it, though. It wasn't like work to me. It was something that I just loved doing. And I knew I needed it. I knew that I needed the extra reps. I was 5'3", and I needed to be able to be in the best shape possible. And I needed to be able to really have that skill set that would be able to battle against girls that were bigger and, sometimes more athletic.
I'm sure your coach loved that. You're like, listen, guys, I'm from Laramie, Wyoming. We don't mess around.
No, we
Laramie.
really don't. You know. And I tell everyone, I'm like, guys, this is nothing. I'd have to get up at like 4:30 in the morning and do a paper route. That's how we paid for like our summer camps, awesome. Right? I'd come home with like my eyelids with icicles hanging off.
Oh yeah, because Laramie
just freezing, and this is nothing. So yeah, it really was. It was I had a really, really good 8th grade basketball coach. His name was Rod Tyson. Big old 6'5", just humongous man. And he invested and taught us how to be so tough, and I really do attribute a lot of that toughness to back in 8th grade when it was a bunch of just tiny little girls being coached by this ex-University of Wyoming, big old 6'5" guy, and so invested in us. He was so invested in us, and he just expected so much of us. And that really was a big part, big pivotal part too, is having him as a coach.
And I think that's such an important lesson to learn young. I'm in the young women's right now.
Oh, amazing.
And I'm like, you got to be tough in life because you don't know what's coming. And so I think that's so cool that you had somebody that invested in you and taught that to you at a young age.
Yeah, he was incredible. I mean, we can get into this in a minute, but I was truly blessed with incredible coaches that invested. And they were, for the most part, men. Which I do think is a big deal in a young woman's life when a man who could be choosing to coach his sons choose to coach the girls and invest their time and their knowledge and their experience into women and into those young girls. It made a huge impact on me.
Absolutely. You've stayed connected to basketball even after college and recently competed in Taiwan. Is this right?
Yes.
At the World Masters Basketball Championships. That is so cool. How did that come about?
I have one of my really good friends. She played here at BYU, Danielle Chessman. She played here, and her dad has been playing in the World Championships. It's basically basketball for old people. Okay, it's like it's not.
Sounds amazing.
It's not that deep, but it is super. Still, I mean, it's still incredible that we're able to go and do it. And the games themselves are very well organized. I mean, I'm not trying to downplay that at all because it really is exceptional. But he played on the men's side, and the men's side has, they have 5-6 teams that are going almost every single year.
Yeah.
And we finally reached the age because it's 30. I think it's 35 is the minimum age. And so we finally all of our group. And something that's so fun is there's a lot of X Division I basketball players just here in the Valley. Mm-hmm. So we play 2 or 3 times. They play 2 or 3 times a week. I try to play on Saturdays where there's 23, 25 people on this huge text thread, and we're all collegiate basketball players. So we're all, we probably have hundreds of kids between all of us, right? And we're getting to be, 50s. Like we're getting into our late 40s, early 50s, and we're all still playing. But so that's kind of the pool where Dee kind of pulled from initially, was that pool of women. And Danielle just organized it. They've been on 6 trips. I've been on 3 of the 6, maybe 7 trips. So I've been to Brazil. Brazil was my first international. That was FIMBA. FIMBA's a little bit different. And the basketball in Brazil was more like wrestling. It was insane and so physical. And
You're like, guys, we're too old for this. What are we doing?
Crazy. And then we went to Finland. And Finland was European basketball is significantly better. And so that was fun. I loved playing in Finland. And then this last year we just went to Taiwan. And that was a little bit trickier. There's a little, a few little things that they probably could have done better. But yeah, so I've been all over the world playing basketball, I guess.
What a wild experience, though.
But it was so fun. I loved it. I loved traveling. And I love playing basketball. So you really, for me, putting those two things together is like the perfect combination.
Yeah. How has basketball stayed a constant anchor through everything else you've taken on?
Well, it is everything I've taken on. And I tell the kids this all the time, and parents this when they're like, oh, I don't know if I want especially for young women. And I talk about this a ton on my social media, but how important team athletics is for girls. As we develop, girls, I don't know what it is, but we really struggle figuring out how to support and cheer on each other. Men don't care. It's like they don't, I don't know. And I know it's a God thing, and I know we could study it all day long. But for girls need to learn how to be incorporated into a team, specifically just girls, so that they can learn how to support and love one another and cheer one another on through their own successes, but also sometimes you have to give up your own success to help somebody else be successful, right? I also just believe basketball, in a sense, team, and especially basketball, because basketball's hard. I got a lot of kids that come out the first year and they're like, that was hard. I don't want to have to be in shape like that, because it's a lot of running.
Yeah.
And so you got to train, and you got to, it's a technical sport. So I just can't think of anything that teaches girls at a young age better about what life is most likely going to look like for them as women, as mothers, as wives, as all of those things. So the grit, the playing through, getting sweaty and dirty and diving on the court and helping each other off the floor and being good teammates and having a sprained ankle and getting up and going and playing anyways, or, a big old bloody nose and, you have your braces just got, your upper lip just got stuck in your braces and we're peeling them out and you're getting back on the court. Like, that's life. I don't know of any mother that's had the flu and didn't still have to get up out of bed and get their kids off to school and tend the babies. And it's just life for moms and for women. And I love it. I wouldn't change it, but we do need to provide more opportunities for young girls to start training those skills and that mindset to be able to just get in the trenches and get it done.
I 100% agree with you. And I think sports teaches everyone, but yes, especially young women, things that there's no other way you could learn it. And it can be life-changing.
Yeah, I agree.
Speaking of a mom, you were a mom of 8, all C names. I love it.
I know.
Charlie, Cash, is it Cal?
Call.
Cody, Cruz, Cooper, Clancy, and Covington. I have a Cash, too. That's my oldest son's name.
Do you spell the C?
Same.
Okay,
Yep.
I love it.
When did you first know that you wanted a big family?
I didn't. I had no idea. God knew. I didn't. I knew I wanted 4
It was
kids.
just one at a time?
Yeah, it really was. I mean, I knew I wasn't going to I knew I was going to have a bigger family than 1 or 2 kids, and 3 was fun. But two was, I was staying home as a mom. And that's something too that I've really battled with becoming a working mother. I never intended. I loved staying home. I have a strong testimony of moms, and I have a strong testimony of staying home with our babies and raising them. So that's was kind of a little inner battle, but I was happy. I loved it. I loved being home with my kids. I had 3 kids, and we have them very close together. So my oldest was 12 when my youngest was born. The 8-year-old was born. So I loved it. The rhythm of it was fun. It was busy, and so the 3rd one came and I was like, okay, this is great. Let's have one more. And at that point I was like, we can't change the name. The last baby can't be Edward or something. He's so
Edward.
lame. So then the 4th one came. And then the 5th one came, and the 5th one was, we're definitely done after this baby. And so the 5th one came, and I couldn't change the name then. And anyways, through very, very special spiritual experiences that I had in the temple, these babies were here, and it was very clear to me that there was another baby. And by 7, I said, "Can somebody just go talk to Tyler? He's in the next room." Like this poor man, every time he's like, "Are you sure you want to go to the temple? Are you sure?"
Sure, that's such a good idea.
Yeah, and then he'd just walk out like this and look at me like, and I'm like,
oh, that is so awesome.
yeah. So I had no idea that we were going to be blessed with 8 babies, but I wouldn't change it for the world, and I'm very grateful that the Lord has blessed me with them.
You've said people online ask you everything from like, are they all yours? Is it the same dad? Do you know how babies are made? How do you respond when people make comments like that?
I just laugh. It's just funny. I mean, they're just trying to be funny, and it is mostly funny. And it doesn't bug me at all. I think it's hilarious. Like, "Oh, you guys must not have a TV." Little jabs like that.
Like, never heard that one before.
Yeah, I'm like, "Oh, that's so funny." Anyways, but yeah, I just giggle and say, "Well, we do have a TV, actually." And yes, I said, one time I said, "No, I don't. Will you explain it? Because I am just mind blown. Like, where are all these kids coming from?" They just started chuckling.
I come from a family of 7, so
Okay.
I love
Where
big
do you
families.
sit?
I'm the youngest.
You're the baby.
I'm the baby of 7.
My
so-
baby is the best child on the planet.
Oh,
So
I'm sure my parents would not agree with you.
Well,
maybe they would. I don't know.
think they would.
No, it's so fun. What are the biggest joys and the biggest surprises of raising such a big, loud, and messy family?
Well, right. I didn't know big kids were so hard. And it's so funny because, the little cute little old ladies that are always like, I mean, now I'm turning into one of those, but they're like,
Just wait till they're
"Enjoy this."
teenagers.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Well, they'll say, "Enjoy this," because it goes so fast. And when you're in the throngs of it, you're like, "Oh my gosh, there is no way this is ever going to be over." And I'm on the other side of that now, right? With my youngest being 11. But one particular lady said, "The only reason you have 8 kids is because you haven't had to parent a teenager yet." And I was like, "Bro, they can get their own breakfast. They can drive." Like, I was thinking of all these things that are like so beneficial having big kids. And she was right. Raising big kids is significantly more complicated than the littles. The littles are, they're like physically draining, right? Where it's just you're up all night, you're getting interrupted. You got to be, "Where's the baby? Where's the baby? Where's the baby?" Like all day. Like, what's in their mouth?
Right.
So it's this constant like live or die scenarios. With big kids, it's eternal, right? Those decisions that they start to make and the type of people they start to become, they start making big decisions which have some longer consequences if they choose poorly.
Right.
And the constant, just that constant ebbing and flowing of where is my role as your parent? Because once they're 18, you need to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
Getting home from missions. I've got my 3rd one's out on a mission, so almost have 3 home from missions. 2, one's married, one's in the process of probably being married by the summer. But it's what's my role? What's my role now, and what does that look like? And it doesn't require any less mind power. You think about them just as much as if they were 5 in your front room, But that's something that has been the biggest shocker. Is big kids are complicated and hard, and they turn into your friends, and so it's like you're not battling, but you're balancing that.
Yes.
That, hey, I'm your mom still.
Right.
Like, I love that you love me, but I'm your mom.
Yeah.
So it's that balancing act, and I was like, I always tell Dad, I stayed up with the babies at night. You are staying up with the teenagers. I'm going to bed.
This is your job. You're taking over.
2 nights out of the week, I feel like you need to pull your weight there. So that's the other hard part is staying up with teenagers, getting, they have a midnight curfew. Well, guess what? You get to sleep in till whenever, and I'm still waking up at 5:45 in the morning. But just finding that balance has been very, very, it's been very eye-opening.
And especially when you have so many different personalities, and then you're battling with your own personality and flaws, and while trying to create good human beings, it's
complicated.
Parenting is not for the faint of heart.
It's not. Poor Charlie. I'm like, Chuck, I'm sorry. Charlie's my oldest. She's my oldest daughter. We call her Chuck. Yeah.
That's cute.
I always am like, Chuck, I'm sorry. You were completely a guinea pig, and you got the worst of me. She really did. She got the mom that didn't know what my boundaries were, didn't know what the rules were, the ones that I really wanted to stick with and were important.
Right.
And then we're always a little bit harder. Moms, I feel like, are always a little bit harder on their daughters than they are on their sons. And I know she just shakes her head all the time. She's like, I know. I know.
God makes up for all of it, though. We're all
It's
trying
true.
our best. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll dive into Amanda's entrepreneurial journey with Halftee, how she became the head coach at Provo High School, her leadership philosophy, and her podcast, Her Layered Life. This is Her Why. Want to know what drives BYU's greatest athletes? Deep Blue takes you beyond the stats and into the stories. Host Jason Shepard sits down with Cougar legends and rising stars to uncover what makes them tick. New episodes every Tuesday. Subscribe to Deep Blue wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome back to Her Why. I'm here with Amanda Barker, CEO, coach, podcaster, mom of 8, and former BYU basketball player. Let's talk about your company, Halftee. Where did that idea originally come from? I have some, by the way, love.
Oh, let's go.
Yes.
I
So where
love
did the
it.
idea come from?
Honestly, being pregnant with 2 layers on, I was so over it. I was so over having this giant belly, and modesty is a big deal within our religion, and the fashion definitely does not most of the time really struggles wearing garments, in general. So I was nursing Cruz. He's our 5th baby, and I was looking because even staying home, I really tried, and I wasn't putting on makeup and doing my hair every day, but I really did try to get up and get ready every day. I do believe that there is a lot of power in how we show up for our day, whether or not we're changing diapers, getting spit up on us all the time. Showing up is important. So I was looking over the closet, and I was like, oh, I'd love to wear that shirt. And I was like, oh, heck no, I'm not wearing that shirt because I got to wear a shade. Do you remember shades?
Uh-huh.
So I got to wear a shade, and I'm not nursing all day with 2 shirts because that's annoying. And so I just thought to myself, why can't we just cut all of those things off and have like the sleeves that we need and the chest covers that we need, but ditch all the rest? And Tyler walked in. I said, I'm starting a company. I'm chopping off all full-length layering tees, and I'm just going to layer with those instead. And I think women will love them. And he just looked at me like I was like postpartum, right? Like, oh, that's sweet. That's so sweet. And I said,
Just
no,
a
I
little
am.
crazy.
Yeah, I'm doing it. I'm so sick of layering. I'm so sick of tucking in on my shirts. And I'm tired of not being able to wear what I want to wear. There, you really can't wear a lot of things unless you have something to go under
Right.
it. So anyway, that popped into my head. For a few months, we went to Disneyland quite shortly after that. And I was walking around, I was watching all these women. I was like, we're all doing it.
Yeah.
We're all have something underneath to just cover up the tiny little things, or maybe it's a big thing. Or, and so I came home and I started doing some research, and there was a couple other companies. And they happened to be at the What Women Want Expo. So my mom and I went because I told my mom, I said, Mom, we're chopping off. I'm done with this. We're gonna start a company. We're gonna call it Halftee. And she's like, okay. So I take her to the What Women Want. We go to this company that has them. I bring them home, and literally I pull them out of the dryer, and it's like in this ball, and it won't stay down, and it just keeps flipping up. And I'm like, well, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
So my mom and I pulled out her serger. I don't have a sewing machine, and started chopping off all the stage shirts that I had in my closet. We started experimenting with band widths and the 2-inch signature band, which has become our signature piece. I think the most important part of the product is that, because it really does keep the half tee in place. That was her idea. I was like, I think it's too thick. I think it's too thick. I think it's too thick. She's like, no, I promise we need to do it this way. So we took the prototypes out to Vox. Vox is my husband went to high school with Kip Rollins, who owns Vox, and we took the prototypes out and we sent them off to China. And I headed out to about 2 weeks later. I headed to an expo down in St. George, Utah. I had four like prototypes. And I was supposed to go with my sister. She was 6 weeks away from having a baby, and she went into preterm labor. And so she stayed back, had a baby, and I went down to St. George. And at the time, I had 5 little kids, right?
Yeah.
And so Tyler stayed home with the kids, and I took I think Todd had to have been maybe 22, maybe younger than that. I don't know. He had been home from a mission. I took him down to, maybe he wasn't even, because I got to think about where we were living. He may have just been out of high school.
And who
I don't
was he,
know.
your brother?
My little brother,
Okay.
going down to talk to women about wearing a
half shirt.
layering top. A crop top, and like, what size am I?
Yeah,
Right? And he's
yeah.
like staring at these women, and you have to look at
I
the
don't
chest.
know.
And he's like, let me get my sister. Anyways, went fantastic. We sold over like 200. I had this legal pad, this yellow legal pad, where I wrote their names, their addresses, collected their money, put in a manila folder. and said, I'll ship them when they get in. They hadn't, I mean, they were still
Yeah.
in China. So that was my, okay, this is going to work. If I can sell a couple hundred of these bad boys with a teenager and no product,
Right.
I think this is going to work. So that was kind of the birth of it. And we've been in business now for 16, 17 years. And it really has been a wonderful, wonderful experience for the most part.
Oh my goodness. What's one of the hardest parts? Just running a business has to
That
be
is-
so difficult.
It is.
So what's the hardest part about it?
I just think it's all on you. I did have a business partner for several years, and I loved having a business partner. In fact, I still miss being able to share the responsibilities of running a company with somebody else that is equally invested, right? But there's a lot of dynamics that come with having a business partner. So I think that is the hardest part. Is carrying the load. You employ people. You have a huge investment financially. If things don't work, I mean, I could take my family out, right? Literally financially out if things don't work because everything is still a small business and it's run on the backs of the Barkers, right? So I think that just having that financial responsibility, and then I could have chosen anything in the world and it would have been easier to sell than a crop top for modesty. I mean, the amount of people and women that come up and are like, "Oh, wow, I would never wear that like that," and you have to bring them back and say, "No, it's not. It's not meant to be worn alone. It's meant to be under clothes." And so I think that the product itself is a little bit tricky to sell, but it's been. I can't believe how much I've learned. It's been incredible.
Incredible. As your kids got older, did they start helping you out?
Yeah,
with
we
different
ran it
things?
out of my house for several years. So they've packaged orders. They've ran to them. They've gone to the post office. Back in the day, we didn't have. I mean, when I started, we didn't have ship station and all of these different shipping. I mean, big companies did, but
Right.
I didn't know what to do. So I was hand writing addresses and return addresses and stickering stamps, 6 stamps, and I'm not kidding. It was so ghetto. I think about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I bet people thought this was, but all of those things have changed, and they've grown up with it. And when a mom works, your family sacrifices you.
Mm-hmm.
You sacrifice to work, and your family sacrifices for you to work. But I do think that has lent to some really great. I have really good kids, and they're all very entrepreneurial minded. They all have these ideas that I think they think a little bit differently, and I love it. I love that spirit, and I love that they know that it can happen, and they know they can do it. Because they've also seen the sacrifice and the time and the effort
Right.
that it really does take to make something happen.
I think that's really cool, though, that you've set the example where a lot of people have ideas and they're like, this will never work. But your kids, they have the example of you, like, no, this idea can
It can work.
turn into something.
Yeah, it really can. And it can fail.
Yeah.
There's risk. And I was just listening to a podcast that entrepreneurs are some of the biggest, they should all be gamblers because they really, you're always taking risks, right?
Right.
Every time we choose to launch a new product, it's a risk. I don't know if people are going to like it. You try to make an intelligent decision based on
Right.
good data, but it's still a risk. So there is risk, and we've failed. I have failed so many times. And the process is you just have to get back up again. Failing is inevitable. And as soon as we figure that out, as soon as we recognize that and really just take that on and say, I'm going to fail.
Yeah.
And I'm going to fail a lot, but every time I do, I'm going to get back up and I'm going to try again. So
I think that's great advice. So you're the CEO of Halftee, and then also now the CEO of the Provo High's girls basketball team. 9 years ago, what led you to getting that job?
they had been asking me for a couple years, if anything changes in our program, do you think you'd be interested in coming coaching? I'd been coaching the Bantam, the younger girls. Charlie was in 5th grade when I started coaching her. And, we're in a smaller community, Provo High, people know. They know you. They know what you can and can't do.
Right.
I've been in Provo now for, I'd been in Provo since I graduated. I hadn't ever moved. And so people know. But they had been approaching me for a couple years. The head coach there said, come coach with me. And I was there. There's just no way the timing, timing is so important. And that is something that I have learned throughout all of these different processes is God really is very meticulous about his timing because it matters. Timing matters. So the head coach, or I've been called in to talk to the AD about something, and we were talking about basketball, and he's like, "Hey, you ready? Like, are you ready?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. Let me think about it." And I was driving, and I was actually, he had convinced me to at least apply. Like, just apply. Nothing is set in stone. Just apply.
That's how they get you.
Yeah, little sucker. So I applied, and I was driving to my interview, and I literally, I had a vision. I really did. It sounds silly, but I did. And the Spirit just showed me all of my coaches. Have you ever read the book, What Good Looks Like? Like, we got to show people what good looks like before we can expect people to know what good looks like.
Okay.
And I saw the lineup of my coaches. And like I said previously, I've had incredible coaches throughout my whole life. And the Spirit just said, Amanda, you know what good looks like. You have been coached your entire life by really, really good people that were invested in the sport, invested in the athletes, and you can do this. And so I just was like, I said, okay, you're right. I've been blessed with all of these. My high school coaches, Coach Street, Pookie, we called him Pookie. That was not, Coach Daniels was his name, but he made the mistake of, his little boy ran in one day after a game, and he called him Pookie. And all of us girls were like, did you just call him Pookie? It was Pookie from then on out.
Well, that's cute.
You know, I talked about Rod. I mean, and that's not the end of it. That's just the beginning. And so I felt very impressed that if I was asked and if I got the job and the interview went well, it was my turn. It was my turn to step up and to learn how to be a coach. And that's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
You don't just be a coach. You don't just,
Right.
oh, I've played basketball my whole life. Coaching is a whole different ball of wax. And it's been a humongous learning curve. And you have to train, just like everything else. You have to learn and train how to be a coach.
And now 9 years later, you have
9
a
years
daughter
later.
that's
Yes.
playing for you.
Yep.
What's that dynamic like?
Well, I started when Charlie was a sophomore. So I started coaching a daughter.
Okay.
That was tricky. Charlie and I get along really well, but Charlie, she has a mouth, and she is not afraid to use it.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of dynamics because I'm hardcore,
Yeah.
and there's a culture to change. And I coach very similarly with how I play and the expectations I held myself to. I hold the athletes to that, and so it was very intense conditioning. I needed to find my mojo there, but she would, like, if she felt like we were conditioning too much, she'd be like, "Mom, like, oh my gosh," or something like that, right? And by about 2 weeks in, I did not have to do any consequences anymore. If she even looked like she was going to say something, her teammates were like, "Shut up, Chuck, like, stop talking. You're just going to make it worse." Anyway, so once we got through that experience was fantastic. Then Cody came through the program, and now Cooper is a freshman. And it's still new. It's still new. But it has been a very big blessing to be able to coach my kids, to be able to spend that time with them, because we spend a lot of time together and developing and teaching them a game in an environment that I absolutely love and trust and know that if you can really be immersed in it, that it will make you a better person. It's been a huge blessing.
When you are in practice or at games, are you the type that's like, I'm not mom anymore.
Yes.
I'm coach.
Yeah, they don't get to call me mom. They call me coach. And Cooper's great. Cooper also is a little mouthy. Cody struggled with the dynamics of people being mean to me because people are really mean to you. And so Charlie, a little thicker skin, she's like, whatever. And I remember one morning I was out running and I just started crying. I was like so sad because I was like, Heavenly Father, I knew this would be hard on me and I knew people would be mean to me. I didn't know how mean people would be to my kids. Mm. And people are ruthless. And it's like they forget that you're being mean to children.
Yeah.
You know, like and kids that aren't even that great yet at this skill.
Right.
So they're just out there trying their best, doing their best. So and that was like a harsh reality that that each of the kids have had to learn how to weather what that feels like, what that sounds like, that Cody wanted to just like follow me along and make sure nobody said anything mean to me.
Like your bodyguard?
Yeah, like my little bodyguard, right? And she'd get so emotionally invested. But Cooper is just a freshman this year. She's doing fantastic. I'm definitely coach right now, but she's probably a little bit more similar to Charlie, but she loves basketball. Like she loves it like I love it. And so it'll be interesting.
Like, yes.
I'm like, finally. So it'll be time for me to retire if, one, I'm not performing or, being the type of coach that I think I need to be. But if it comes in the way of my relationship with my kids and with my daughters. And that was something that was told to me, right when I started by Russ. He was a coach. He coached his daughters in high school. And he said, Maddie, you'll know when it's time if coaching can never come and replace your relationship with your daughters. And if that becomes what it is and it's changing that dynamic, then that's when you probably should not coach anymore.
Well, with 8 kids and a team to coach and a company to run, how do you decide what gets your attention on any given day? Because that'd be I'm sure sometimes you feel very spread thin. Yeah,
it does. And like I said, it's made it a little bit more simple now that the kids are a little bit bigger. I have always, how long? Since Cooper. So for 15 years, I've had a nanny. And that has made, I always tell people, I don't believe in balance. I think balance is a myth.
Yeah.
I believe in flow and I believe in rhythm. And if we can be flowing in and out of the different hats that we wear and it feels rhythmic, then I feel like that is where you find balance, right? But if I'm at work, I'm not coaching. If I'm at work, I'm not with my kids. So if you really think about it, it's not balanced.
Right.
If you're in one place, it's not balanced. The scale is over here. So being able to find flow, being able to find rhythm is super important to me. And so that having a nanny, and I've always been blessed with incredible girls. They were just young women that have worked for me from day one. I mean, from when I decided to start bringing in a nanny. And that has helped me battle all that mom guilt that kind of happens, right? But that my kids haven't had to go, they haven't had to go outside the home. I haven't had to pick up from babysitters and things like that. They came in and it really helped with the flow. So that's been a huge part of how I've been able to find balance, find flow, is that. But I'm very, very strict with how I spend my time too. One people's favorite thing to say is, "Oh, you work for yourself, so you should have so much freedom." That's not true. If you want to work for yourself and be successful, you have to. Those boundaries have to be even tighter because people tend to not respect business owners because they do get this really false sense of flexibility.
Right.
And so I don't take phone calls if I'm at work. If my sisters or my mom wants to talk to me, I text, "Hey, I'm at work. I'll call you when I'm done," or whatever.
Yeah.
And I really try when I'm at work, I do work. When I go to practice, I'm at practice. I do practice. And then when I'm at home, I'm at home. So, like I said,
you are where your feet are.
Yep, you are where your feet are. And the kids have learned that, and they've also learned that there are times when, especially as a coach and as a business owner, you have to take calls and you have to be available to your people, and that's okay too. And they're okay to wait and be patient and learn those principles too.
You recently launched a podcast called Her Layered Life. What inspired you to create a space for women navigating all of their layers?
I just felt so impressed. I had gone to a female founders only conference, or like a trip up in Glacier. And it was the first time that I really met like-minded women in business. And it's a funky world here in Utah, running businesses, influencers, business owners. And it often feels overwhelming and you just can't find your people. You just feel like you're kind of on this little island. Well, it was awesome. It was an awesome experience. And what I realized is there's a statistic that 80% of consumable purchases are made by women. And we have all of these women building companies, right? And most of the time, these companies are being built off of what is going to make women's lives more effective, more efficient, more beautiful, more organized, more modest, or whatever it is. Women-built businesses are generally built for women.
Yeah.
And yet there's such a small amount of recognition that goes into that. 40% of businesses in America are women-owned. But only, I can't remember, I want to say like 2%, or it's like such a small fraction, like 2% of overall business generated revenue is in that 40% of women-owned businesses. Wow. And so I started thinking about it. I started thinking, how can I collaborate with women-owned businesses, woman to woman, B2B, right? And help rise together. And I also believe that when women come together, when we work together synergistically, not competing, because women want to compete with each other. And that is the biggest thing that we do to one another that completely shuts our light down, shuts our strengths down. If we can come together and create together, we are the ultimate creators. Women are the ultimate creators. That's what God made us to be, was creators. So if we can get the competitiveness, the comparison out the door, and if we can start to work together, we will rise exponentially faster together. And so I wanted to start getting business owners, and I just wanted to hear their story. And I wanted to know, what are all these layers? Like, I know I have layers, but I really am interested in, I love the pivotal moments in our lives that the Lord, in my very first podcast, Alyssa said, God ordered my steps. And I loved that. I loved that idea. It just was like, oh my gosh, God is ordering our steps. Every single one of us, he's ordering our steps so that we are where we need to be when we're supposed to be there. And all the little steps that he's ordered, all the little layers that take us and has been given to us to make us who we are today, it's fascinating to me, and it's powerful. So there was a little bit of both. I wanted to learn more about women, how they worked. I wanted to learn about their layers, their experiences, their steps that God had given them to get them where they were. But then I also just wanted to bring more recognition to women-owned businesses, because I don't think as women we're walking around like, oh, I'm not going to buy theirs. That's a woman-owned company. That's lame. I just don't think we know.
Yeah.
And I don't think we realize our economical strength we have in our economy to make a difference. And what I've found is that when you support a women-owned company, 98% of them are out in the communities doing incredible things in the communities too. They're high school basketball coaches. They're working with projects here, nonprofits there. They're working with all of these different organizations, because as women, we are so much more naturally giving. We want to give. And so when you support women-owned companies, you're not just supporting the woman, the family, you're supporting communities, and you're strengthening communities, and you're giving them the opportunities and the monies, right, and the revenue behind it to be able to go out and make a difference in their communities too. So that's really the essence of Her Layered Life is that effort. I never intended to start a darn tune podcast. I did not want to be a podcaster. My marketing team was like, Amanda, we need a podcast. Like several years ago, I said, guys, I am not doing a podcast. Like you already got me on social media. Yeah. Like I'm good. And when I pitched the like B2B collaborations, I was like, and I want to go live with these women owners. I want to interview them. And Princess, she's my director, and she looks at me and she's like, that's a podcast. You might fire me, but I'm going to tell you, it can't be a live. It has to be a podcast. Yeah. And then she obviously broke it down. I was like, fine. And I've honestly loved it. I didn't know that I was going to love it as much as I do, but I really have loved sitting down with these women and learning from them and listening to them and having moments where they're like, oh, I've never shared this before, and creating that environment, that space that gives them that opportunity to share things that may or may not have ever come up before.
I love that concept. And I think that's so powerful, such a powerful reminder that as women to join together instead of competing or comparing in the things that we can do if we do that. Love that. I 100% agree with that. I'm here with Amanda Barker, CEO, coach, podcaster, mom of 8, and former BYU basketball player. Amanda, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule
and
being here to share your story. I appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks for having me. It's been a wonderful time. Thank you.
Thanks to Annie Robinson for producing this episode with senior producer Cleon Wall. Her Why is a production of BYU Radio.